Guys, so this is the video for section 11.1, and in this section we're going to talk about circumference and arc length. So we have a few different formulas we're going to use depending on what you're looking for and what you have. Okay, so briefly to go over the vocabulary, which you should already know, okay, the circumference is just the distance around the circle. Okay, we can think of it like we think of the perimeter of a polygon. So if I have a circle here, okay, the arc length would be how far it is if I go around the outside of the circle and then I start where I stop. So it's just one way around. So think of it as kind of like the perimeter of the circle. Okay, now an arc is just a piece of the circle. Okay, so say we don't want the entire circumference, we just want from here to here. This would be an arc, okay? And the length of that arc, so if we wanted the length from here to here, that's what we would call the arc length. So this is a part of the circle, so a part of the circumference of the circle, I guess. And I want to add that it is a measurement. So it can be feet, it can be inches, it can be yards, miles, whatever, but it is a measurement. Okay, central angle, guys. Once again, you should know these. These will come up again on your test, but a central angle is an angle whose vertex is the center of the circle and sides are radii of the circle, which is just plural for radius. Okay, so if I draw a central angle, if this is the center of my circle, okay, or central angle would be here and here, because its center is, or the vertex is at the center of the circle. So this would be a central angle. This angle right here is the central angle. Okay, now here's our two formulas. Okay, so circumference is right here. Okay, it's just 2 pi r, and notice the only thing we need to find the circumference, all we need is the radius. Okay, now arc length is a little longer and a little scary looking, but really it's not that bad because we just plug stuff in and let the formula work. So for this one, we need the central angle and the radius. Now, I want to show you something cool about a central angle. Okay, so if we have a circle, okay, here's my circle, and let's draw the central angle, I don't know, right here. Okay, and let's say this is 50 degrees. Okay, well, if this is 50 degrees, the measure of this arc here is also 50 degrees. So the central angle will sometimes be written out here, and it'll sometimes be written in here, but it'll always have a degree symbol. So if it has a degree symbol and it's either out here or in here, that's a good indication it's talking about the central angle. All right, so let's look at example 1 here. Okay, it says find the circumference of a circle with a radius of 3. Okay, we want to find the circumference, so we're going to use the circumference formula. Notice here it says to find the circumference, all we need is the radius, which is given to us. Okay, so the circumference formula is C equals 2 pi r. Okay, and I know my radius is 3. Okay, so all I'm going to do is I'm going to take this radius and plug it in right here for r. So my circumference is going to equal 2 pi, my r we know is 3. Okay, now here, I know it's kind of awkward, but you can think of pi kind of like an x. We can go ahead and multiply these two to be 6 pi. And we are in centimeters. So, word of thumb, if Big Ideas says exact, okay, this is the answer it wants. It wants pi in the answer if it says exact. Okay, now if Big Ideas says they want this rounded, I don't know, say to the nearest tenth, all you're going to do is you're going to put 6 times pi in your calculator, and pi button, if you're using your TI-84 calculators, there's a pi button. So if you can find the division sign on the right, okay, right above it, there's a button that's looks like this, and then above that in blue, it's the pi symbol. So if you hit second, and then this button, it should put pi in your calculator. Okay, so if you put 6 times pi in your calculator, you'll get roughly 18.8, and that would be in centimeters. So if big ideas wants it rounded, this is what you would get. Okay, let's look at example 2 now. Okay, it says find the radius of a circle if the circumference is 24 inches. Okay, so now we're given the circumference and we want to find the radius. Okay, but because we have the circumference, we're going to use the circumference formula, and we know that circumference is 2 pi r. Okay, I got that straight from the formula above. All right, now we're given that a circumference is 24. Okay, so if our circumference is 24, I'm going to plug this 24 into the circumference part of this equation. Okay, so I can rewrite this as 24 equals 2 pi r. Okay, now I just want to solve for r, so I'm first going to divide by 2, and 24 divided by 2 is 12. Okay, those go away, so 12 equals pi r. And then to get r by itself, I'm going to divide by pi. And when I put that into my calculator, just 12 divided by pi, I get roughly 3.8. So r is roughly 3.8. And that's how you'd find the radius if you have the circumference. Okay, so let's look at example 3. Okay, now example 3 is very similar to example 2. The difference is we're trying to find the diameter here. Okay, so let's envision this. Okay, if we have a circle, hopefully you know that this is a radius. Okay, and then this would be a diameter. Okay, so if you notice, the diameter is just 2 radiuses put together. So to find my diameter, I can just take my radius times 2, or 2 times my radius. Okay, and that'll give me the length of my diameter. So I'm going to do this just like I did 2. I'm going to find my radius, and then from there, I'm going to find my diameter. All right, so let's read this out. It says the circumference of a circle is 100 pi. Find the diameter of that circle. Okay, so once again, my circumference formula is C equals 2 pi r. Okay, now the circumference is 100 pi. So I'm going to say my circumference I know is 100 pi. And therefore, I can substitute this 100 pi right in here where I see the circumference. So I can rewrite this as 100 pi equals 2 pi r. All right, now it's time to do some algebra. So if I divide both sides by 2, those go away. Well, 100 divided by 2 is 50. So I'm left with 50 pi equals, on the right side I have pi times r. Okay, and then if I divide both sides by pi again, or just by pi, that goes away and those go away. So I have 50 equals r. Okay, but recall, I don't want my radius, I want to find my diameter. So I can find my diameter by saying, well, that's just 2 times my radius, which is 2 times 50, which is 100. And I don't think I have the units on here, so I'm just going to write units. And there's my final answer. All right, let's look at example 4. Okay, this one's quite a bit more complicated. Okay, it says the diameter of a bicycle wheel is 22 inches. All right, so if I know my diameter is 22, that tells me that my radius has to be half that, which is 11. Okay, because remember, I have to multiply my radius by 2 to get my diameter, so to get my radius, I have to divide my diameter by 2. 22 divided by 2 is 11. So 11 is my radius. All right, so it says the diameter of a bicycle wheel is 22 inches. Okay, that means my radius is 11. So to the nearest whole number, how many revolutions, we'll talk about what this word means here in a minute, does the wheel make if the bicycle travels 1,000 feet? Okay, so let's think about this. Okay, 1 revolution is just 1 time around. Okay, which is the same thing if I go back to the circle. So 1 revolution would be if I start here, I go around, 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 and I stop. Okay, so that's also the same thing as 1 circumference. All right, so let's find what 1 circumference is here. So C equals 2 pi r. Okay, and I know my radius is 11. So C equals 2 pi times 11, which is just 2 times 11 is 22, so 22 pi. I'm going to go ahead and put this into my calculator and get a decimal. Okay, so that's 69.115 roughly. So C equals 69.115, and that is inches. Okay, well, notice this is feet. Okay, so this is in inches. We want feet. So to convert this to feet, I can take 69.115 and I can divide it by 12. So when I do that, I get roughly 5.76. Okay, so one time around, I go 5.76 feet. So this is 1 circumference. Okay, but it tells me I'm traveling 1,000 feet. Okay, one time around I travel 5.76 feet. So I need to know how many times around does this bicycle have to go for me to travel 1,000. Okay, well that's just taking 1,000 and we're saying, well, how many 5.76s have to make up 1,000? So we're going to divide. So 1,000 divided by 5.76 gives me about 173.6. Okay, but it says to the nearest whole number. Okay, well that means 0.6 tells me to round up, so about 174 revolutions. And you can just do revs if you want. And that's how many times around this wheel has to travel for us to travel 1,000 feet. All right, so this is for page 1. I am going to record another video for the back of this page, so page 2, so make sure you watch that as well.